We left things in the balance last episode, a semi-final against AC Milan, losing the first leg 4-3 after being 3-1 up. And currently we're outside the top 6 in the league with just 3 games remaining. And it's Crystal Palace up next. With Shatalo out injured, it's close to a fully strengthened 11, but we are resting a couple of players by rotating anyway. It took just 23 minutes before the first goal of the derby when we ripped through the Palace defence with excellent passing and McAllister pops us ahead. But tempers were heated and the inevitable red card came when Morelos flew in from the side with a scissors kick, and the referee rightfully sent him off for an early bath just on the hour mark. And that left us to pile on the pressure, and Ferguson made it too just 10 minutes later. On to the second leg of our Europa League, and Van Heck's header equalised on the aggregate score, and the match went into extra time, where Da Costa was found over the top to put us 1 foot into the final. But AC Milan had one last throw of the dice from their own corner and sent the game into penalties, where Robert Sanchez saved Milan's first penalty, and it eventually all came down to Da Costa for our 5th when he dispatched it home and put us into the final of the Europa League, where we will face Borussia Dortmund in the final after they knocked out Manchester United 5-3 on aggregate. A win and a loss against Liverpool and Brentford, and we thankfully guarantee ourselves European football next year. But we need to win to keep us in the Europa League next year, just in case we don't win the Europa League final this season, and Evan Ferguson's fast thinking puts us in pole position to do just that. But we were complacent, and maybe our minds were already on the final. We conceded and ultimately drew 1-1 at Carroll Road. And with Arsenal's 2-0 win against Leeds, they leapfrog us, leaving us down in 7th place. So can this squad win the Europa League? I've trusted Ferguson over Leonardo up top and Wrench instead of Lamptey because he's better defensively. And after defending quite well, we couldn't clear our lines and Talis Magno scored at the back post just before half time. But we kept ourselves in the fight, and with just 10 minutes to go, Mitoma is on the end of Thuram's cross and we are level. Until, would you believe it, the 94th minute when the ball drops to Emre Can, who fires the ball into our net and breaks our hearts. That one stings, lads, I'm not gonna lie. We have to look to next season right away, and there are already a few players being targeted from our first team, and I really hope that £12 million increases after we get so far in Europe and on Champions League money. 88 million, that's a lot better. With Spurs circling our goalkeeper Robert Sanchez, I thought I'd ask Michael Edwards to see who he thinks would be a viable replacement should we need to make one. And to be fair to him, 2 of the choices aren't bad. Safanov is only £9 million, and Young from Krasnodar and João Paulo from Santos is decent, but both aren't quite as good at distributing like Sanchez is. Although he's still not quite good as Sanchez, Fruitchel is a keeper I am quite fond of should we need to find a replacement. Tottenham came in with offers for both Thuram and Sanchez, but the offers were way too low to sell. Breaking news, we did eventually sell Robert Sanchez for £11 million to Spurs. And we have replaced him with Karnaseki. Arguably, he's way better than Sanchez, a fantastic goalkeeper in all aspects. And we also sold Tariq Lamptey to Mainz, who in the last year of his contract refused to sign another, and yet we still got £42 million for him. Player we signed for the left-hand side of defence is Miguel Gutierrez, who we got from Gijon for £15 million, which is the same price we got CDM Fabian Ryder, who is exceptional, and I think this will be perfect for that right midfield spot. But our best signing, I think, might be Per Schurz, who I'd say comes right into the starting 11 from Torino, who we paid £16.75 million to sign it. But I've asked Michael again to find me a right back, and well, Vanderson is great but way too expensive. The other 2 I'm a little underwhelmed with from our director of football. Replacing Lamptey though is Wilfried Single, who I found by myself, who we also brought in from Torino for the same price as Schurz, leaving us with £30 million and 263k a week in my wage budget, which is a brilliant window, I think. There's still a bit of the window open, but let's head into our first match of the new season against Chelsea. Might be a risk with 4 changes to our back 5 here, with Matomo dropping to left wing while Thuram recovers, but it's daring to say the least. Being daring and taking the game to Chelsea worked though, because Evan Ferguson latched onto the loose ball and scored. Chelsea did equalise when Havertz's header looped over the goalkeeper, unfortunately. But right after half time, new signing Fabian Ryder did a great job down the right wing for someone who's not natural there, and his cross found Ferguson, and we win 2-1. After a great win against Norwich, we played Liverpool just 3 days later at Anfield, and Mohamed Salah was having a good day. He got the first goal, and then this was a very poor penalty which was unfortunately spilled into the net by Karnaseki. But overall, I was happy with the performance despite the 2-1 loss, and we did score a consolation through McAllister. We had a difficult run with City in our fourth match, and Evan Ferguson gave us the lead in the first minute. New left-back Gutierrez powered through down the wing and pulled it back for Ferguson to score a second. And McAllister scored then a third, and by half-time McAllister scored a fourth. It's 4-0. Manchester City did pull one back though through Rodrigo, but then Shares got us a fifth, and we beat Manchester City 5-1. We got a big offer on deadline day for Thuram, totaling £68 million, but I'm not willing to accept. Not a bad window, only £15 million spent technically after what we sold, and I genuinely think our squad has vastly improved. After a win and a draw in the league through September, it's time for our first Europa League match in the new league phase format when we play 8 different teams, and we start off in a great match against Poulsen. We went 2-0 up through Van Heck and Ferguson. Poulsen did snag one back through bad defending by Vidra, but Evan Ferguson scored another 2 goals late on, getting himself a hat-trick and the 3 points for Brighton. He then scored the only goal in the league match against Leeds at Ellen Road. The next patch included 2 losses, one in the lead to Manchester United and another 2 draws to Palace and Newcastle. Alex Scott did score a beautiful team goal in the win against Arsenal. We started November losing to Tottenham when Kulusevski 5-1 in the 95th minute. But we did win the next 4 games, including against Forest, where Ferguson bagged himself yet another hat-trick for the season in a 4-2 victory, even with us only down to 10 men for 84 minutes. That's thanks to Thuram snapping the Forest player just needlessly 6 minutes into the game. But our December was actually incredible. 6 league wins and 1 win in Europe. The only game we didn't win, we still took the lead at Old Trafford through McAllister. And United only equalised in the second half, rather luckily really, when the ball looped up to Bruno Fernandes for the draw. And that run also propelled us into second place in the Premier League behind Man City, but with a game in hand. Second in Europa League Phase 2 and in a good position to qualify automatically. In January, a huge bid came in for Alex Scott, totaling £18 million from Bayern Munich, but a bid I wasn't willing to accept. He has basically developed into what I would say is our best player. But he's not the only one that's wanted. Half of our first team are all being chased. We started 2025 on a massive high against our rivals Crystal Palace. Thuram put us into the lead in just the 55th minute. Palace did bounce back immediately with a goal from Zaha, but Lewis Dunk, whose vision is next level, picked out Da Costa, who found the winner off the post.
Get in!
Followed by 2 losses to Arsenal and Chelsea. In the Europa League, we finished strong with a 1-0 win against Monaco and a 4-2 away win against Maccabi Tel Aviv, qualifying in second place only behind Arsenal. My scouts found this fantastic 20-year-old attacking midfielder who I just put in a bid for, and he was keen to sign. But Bayern joined the snake list after we rejected their Alex Scott bid and signed him instead. Annoying really, because I had decided to sell Da Costa to Dortmund when I was getting the deal done for £47 million, with some add-ons as well. And we failed to sign a replacement. On a positive note, we won 3 league games at the end of January, and we currently sit at the top of the table. Back-to-back FA Cup wins, including a barn burner at Old Trafford. Our only loss in February came at home against Wolves, and we even took the lead as well. Unfortunately, it just wasn't our day, and Mateus Cunha scored a brace in a 2-1 loss. And yet we are still top, just. And we have Celtic in the next round of the Europa League. In the first leg, we put ourselves in a great position to qualify with a 4-1 away win, and Evan Ferguson scored the first 3 goals of the match. He was pretty much unplayable on the night. He even scored 2 in the second leg. March was going really well until Liverpool knocked us out of the FA Cup. April has some tough league matches and Galatasaray in the Europa League. But we kept trudging through fixtures, and with a great squad rotation, we kept winning games. Another 3-0 win against Newcastle at home. Evan Ferguson then scored another 4 goals across both legs in the Europa League quarter-final tie against Galatasaray in a 5-0 aggregate win, putting us into the semi-final against Sevilla. We didn't even concede a goal in April until we lost 2-0 against Brentford. Semi-final time in the home leg and Evan Ferguson smashes us into the lead. And not long later, Caicedo finds him over the top and again it's 2-0. But second half, Sevilla composed themselves and Oscar's shot was palmed by Karnaseki onto the bar and into the net, unfortunately, to end the first leg 2-1. The second leg didn't start as great as Sevilla scored within the first 10 minutes. But of course, Evan Ferguson, the top scorer of the competition, put us back into the lead on aggregate. Only for half an hour though, as En-Nesyri got his and Sevilla's second on the night. And twice in 1 year, our Europa League dreams were shattered when Sevilla got a third. In between that, we played Liverpool, and against the champions, we stole a 1-0 win through Marcus Leonardo. He did also decide to get himself sent off for a second yellow, but I think we can let him off. The game against Villa was a story of 2 penalties scored, with our next fixture against Man City. And with just 2 games to go, you might call this a title decider. Going into the game, we were missing key players in Schürrle and Ryder. And what a dream start it was for us when Alex Scott found himself free and gave us the advantage. After a scramble in City's box, the ball dropped to Ferguson and we are 2-0 ahead. And on the half-hour mark, we couldn't believe what was happening as Alex Scott put us 3-0 up and given us a huge advantage in the title race. But the most unfortunate own goal happened the minute after and it gave City hope. And in the second half, Kevin De Bruyne put City just a goal behind us. And breathing down our necks, and after being 3-0 up, of course, Manchester City equalise and pull it back through Laporte. And giving the title back in the hands of Manchester City, who have Brentford on the final day while we host Fulham at home, who have already been relegated. And on this final day, noise broke around the Amex as Brentford took the lead against Man City from Damsgaard's unbelievable chip. But just 5 minutes later, City broke down the left and equalised through Rodrigo. The drama continued at home though, as Matomo gave us the lead just 3 minutes after City's equaliser. And immediately from kickoff, don't ask me how, but somehow Bernd Leno turned this save into a goal. But Fulham, despite being relegated, still wanted to disrupt us when Torres made it 2-1. And still, with the scores 1-1 at Brentford, Matomo then curls the ball into the top corner and we are 3-1 up and currently winning the Premier League at half-time. We just need Brentford to stay strong, which is exactly what they didn't do, and pass the ball to Erling Haaland inside their own box.
Oh no! Oh no!
Frustration at the Amex, despite us being ahead, spilled onto the pitch as, without any danger of Fulham scoring 1, let alone bringing the game level, Marcus Leonardo recklessly chops their man down and receives a straight red card. However, there was one final twist. The new hero of Brighton, Christian Norgard, the Brentford player, scored in the 81st minute equaliser against Manchester City. And yes, dreams do come true, Seagulls fans, because Brentford held on and Brighton are the Premier League champions for the first time in their history. It took just 3 seasons to do. So how much longer will it take for us to win the Champions League? Well, we will have a great budget for next season, and Michael Edwards' contract is running out. So my question is, do we replace him or do we keep him?